Hey guys, what's going on? Today I just want to take you through some of the changes happening in BFA for Feral Druid. I'll mostly just take you through the different talent setups that we got going on, different variants, what's viable, what doesn't seem to be as effective. I'm gonna assume that you've got some knowledge of Feral Druid, that maybe you've played it in the current live servers, and just kind of want to look out for what's happening going forward. Maybe you've not got beta access yet. Um, I mean, looking at the talent tree, it's near enough set, uh, similar to how we've got it in live. There's only really one talent change where we now have Feral Frenzy, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the video. Um, Now Blizzard have come out and said that the talents are pretty much set. The class, the way they play is pretty much set. It's mainly just now about tuning numbers. We've not got 100% uh, you know, 100% ready to go numbers yet. So don't pay attention too much to how much damage is occurring, but more so just how the spec kind of plays. Um, Looking at the top talent tree, we've still got Loon Inspiration, Predator, Blood Scent. Now, Predator is obviously AoE, um, your AoE, or you know, boss fights that have maybe small mobs that are going to die quite frequently. You don't really want to take it on any single target fights, especially when you've got the other two talent options available. The 10% crit here from Blood Scent is uh, very effective, but I mean, it depends on your play style. If you're playing with Blood Talons, then you probably find that, Lunar Inspiration is better for you because it allows a little bit more room for messing up. Um, but I mean, me personally, I do prefer Blood Scent. Um, but Lunar Inspiration is good, especially when you at the beginning of the expansion when you don't have much gear. Uh, it can be responsible for anywhere from like 10 to 15% of your damage. Just having that extra Moonfire tick. Um, the extra 10% crit this early on probably isn't that effective. I mean, there are probably people that know a bit more than I do that would probably say otherwise, but I mean that's for people to really do the min maxing at the high end. Um, Now we can skip these three rows. I mean, we have seen the change from Displaced Beast to Tiger Dash, which is neither here nor there. It is what it is. Um, it's just basically you get out of jail free card, which you get a quite a ridiculous speed increase. I mean, I'll show you now. Flying all over the place, um, which is nice. Definitely nice. It's up to you whether you decide that's more beneficial than Displace a Beast. I personally quite like it. Of course, it does replace Dash, so it is what it is. It's not really going to affect your rotation too much. Just don't stand in the fire, basically. So if we then look at Incarnation, and this general row of talents, Incarnation I think still reigns supreme. The way the spec's playing currently, you just have a huge output potential with your shred and your ferocious bite. We've become quite a bit less dependent on the bleeds. Obviously, you want as high an uptime on rake and rip as you can, but the damage doesn't really come from them anymore. It's more so uh, just your direct melee abilities that are doing most of your damage. So Incarnation still really good. I don't really see a situation where you wouldn't want to take it. Soul of the Forest, though, I mean, it is quite uh, it's nice. It's just not as good as Incarnate, in my opinion. I mean, obviously now on live servers, you've got the Legendary Ring, which can give you both Soul of the Forest and Incarnation, which is great. But seeing as that's being removed, unless it worms its way into Azerite gear, I can't really see benefit for Soul of the Forest when you've got Incarnate. Moving on to the next set, uh, I mean, Brutal Slash is nowhere near as good as Savage Roar for single target. Brutal Slash is okay. Um, from what I know, I mean, this is live server numbers, but it's about a 3% difference in damage between Savage Roar and Brutal Slash single target. Um, don't take that as fact. I think that's just a rough estimate. But Savage Roar, I mean, if you go in single target, if you go in patchwork, Savage Roar is going to be the optimal talent pick. Brutal Slash is more so if you do any Mythic Plus, you're just generally questing, that kind of thing. Now Sabertooth, uh, again, is good. It's good. It's got a nice effect. I mean, it might be quite nice for you if you're not as adept at Feral and you want kind of a little softer rotation, um, a little bit less micromanagement. It basically means that you don't have to be worrying about your Savage Roar uptime. You don't have to be watching the top side of your screen all the time, and you don't have to worry about your rip ferocious bite priority. Sometimes, I mean, even now, I will, you know, mess up and I'll mistime a ferocious bite when I should have ripped, and this kind of just basically cancels out any worry that you could have from that. But you're gonna have less damage because Savage Roar is just gonna be a 15% flat damage increase across the board. You can't really beat that. Savage Roar. A lot of people actually feel that they want this removed. Um, I don't agree. I really quite enjoyed having the Savage Roar uh, element to the play style. But I mean, I really liked Feral back in Emerald Nightmare. That's where I want to kind of see it return to. Um, you want Blood Talons, you want Savage Roar, and you want Blood Scent, and the three of them together, just ridiculous bleed damage. But nowadays, not so much. You want that increased 15% damage. You're getting your shreds in, getting your ferocious bites. That's where all your damage is coming from. Now, the last row of talents, Moment of Clarity. I mean, from how playing beta, putting quite a bit of time into it, the way it feels, uh, Moment of Clarity seems to be the best talent at the minute. Now, that obviously is going to change once you get more gear. I mean, even now I'm only, 110 with starting gear. Don't even have my heart yet. So, I've not really got much haste. Um, so, uh, the energy regen is quite slow. It makes the general play feel very slow, especially with global cooldown changes. You know, um, I mean, that doesn't really affect us too much. Uh, but Tiger's Fury, that is now on the GCD, and you're getting less energy, about 10 less energy. Plus, you no longer have your artifact weapon, so you no longer have the 5 energy per second, for that 3 seconds from Ashman's energy that you would normally have. So generally, the rotation seems quite slow. Moment of Clarity is really, really good for just making that feel a little bit faster. You've got a maximum energy increase, which can really make the difference because of the global cooldown, making sure you're not getting too energy capped when you pop Incarnate and pop your Tiger's Fury. Um, it's good as well with the free shreds, the instant the free the free cost in shreds. Everything's instant cast. The free cost shreds really make a difference when you are energy starved, um, and you're trying to, rip, savage roar. You get a nice proc from Moment of Clarity, just really carries you through there. Blood Talons, I mentioned earlier, um, really, really good damage. 25% increased damage of your next two melee abilities. So ideally, you want to be using these on your rakes and your rip renews, maybe potentially a ferocious bite, depending on how it lines up. Um, the way it works currently, what with most of your damage coming from shred and ferocious bite, and even your melee attack, I can't really see it being too damaging, even if you blood talons, your shreds and your ferocious bites, I think that would probably maybe even see a damage increase. So Blood Talents is okay at the minute. I wouldn't really recommend it when you've got Moment of Clarity, and whilst you're in this 110 leveling gear, uh, it doesn't feel that good. It feels quite like you got quite a few plates spinning, trying to keep your Savage Roar up. Uh, you got your Moonfire, your Rake, and your Rip. Blood Talents just doesn't feel very good at the minute. Hopefully that changes though, because I definitely prefer the Blood Talents playstyle. Um, so hopefully that kind of gets a little bit of a buff. Um, Now, Feral Frenzy, that's a new talent. That's a new one for us coming with BFA. I've used it. It seems okay. Um, it will account for around about 10 to 15% of your damage, uh, depending on, how effectively you use it. From what I'm aware of, it does snapshot off of your Tiger's Fury. So I'd probably try and line those up as often as you can. Um, Apart from that, it's just not going to beat Moment of Clarity. Uh, like I said, the bleeds at the minute for Feral aren't very strong, so an extra bleed here with Feral Frenzy, I don't really see much of a benefit. There was I think tier 20, where for each bleed you have on the target, you have a damage increase. Um, or something along those lines. But if that's not currently, that's not currently embedded into the spec, so I don't really feel like Feral Frenzy is that great of a talent choice at the minute. Now, I'll take you through over here just some of how the rotation plays out. So using Lunar Inspiration, using Savage Roar. Um, Now the idea here, obviously you want to open with your Rake because of the increased 100% damage, and you want to get your Savage Roar up on the target as quickly as possible. So I Rake, Moonfire, and then I Savage Roar to try and get that up, try and get the benefit of that 15% increased damage as quickly as possible. Uh, then we want to just build 5 combo points, get our Rip on the target, and then it's basically just rinse and repeat from there. Maintain your darts. As you can see, Savage Roar is about to run out. I'm gonna refresh it at 4 combo points. No real loss there. We're not using Blood Talons, so there's no real problem with that. Um, and yeah, you can see the Moment of Clarity procs really, really nice. Really making the spec feel as if I actually, feels closer to live compared to any of the other uh, possible talents. Um, Just letting some of my spells fall off there a little bit. As I said, still getting used to the slower play, not having as much energy. So that does really impact the feel. Messes with some of your timing still a little bit, but that's how it goes. So I mean, you can see looking at the damage. If we open this up here, you can see most of the damage is coming from shred, melee. Um, it will be interesting to see now that weapon drops are a thing, to see how that will impact feral, because we're now going to scale off of our attack power a little bit more, I think. Or our damage of our weapons. Um, Again, I'm not completely 100% sure exactly how that's going to work, so I won't comment on it too heavily. But looking at the overall damage, as I said, you can see Shred, Melee up at the top, and then it's our bleeds. And Moonfire, as you can see, is at quite a big percentage of our damage. If you compare an extra 12.5% of damage compared to, if you're going to take Blood Scent, where you just get 10% uh, 10% increased crit. Clearly, in this scenario, it's still way more beneficial to have Moonfire. You know, uh, quite a good talent to have. So that's a little bit of that. That's playing with what I feel is the most comfortable current spec. Um, you can see after about 3 minutes of combat, finish at around about 1.9 K DPS, which is okay. It's fairly, it's fairly good. Um, I think for now, again, there's still some fine tuning that's going to be going on with the damage, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. Now, if we switch things up a little bit and we just switch to Blood Talons, I'll show you a little bit of how messy it feels, how awkward it feels currently. And this is coming from someone who is actually quite a big supporter of Blood Talons as a spec. I really want to see it kind of reaching its full potential in this expansion. Taking Feral back to the Bleed class. I don't really want to play like an Outlaw Rogue anymore. Alright, so this is with Blood Talents, so obviously we want to regrowth before we go into combat to give us our 2 Blood Talents procs. And then we want to open up with Rake. I'm going to Moonfire, going to get that Savage Roar up as quickly as possible. Pop our cooldowns. Notice there that we didn't get energy capped, which is always nice. So I'm going to build up here. Refresh Blood Talons. Get the Blood Talon procced Rake. Fresh Savage Roar. Now, this is where we start to struggle as our incarnate falls off. We then start to kind of have quite a few plates to juggle, and it doesn't feel too good at this point. Messing up a little bit there with my Blood Talent procs, but nothing too major. And this is where we have to make a choice. It's quite difficult, as you can see, to maintain the Savage Roar and Rip procs currently with how energy starved it feels. This is obviously just because I'm using leveling gear. I mean, going forward, getting more gear, it should feel a lot better, a lot cleaner. So that's why I wouldn't really recommend this talent at the minute. But maybe going forward, maybe at max level, a bit more gear. Maybe Blood Talents will be a little bit more player friendly. There we are. Now this is after about a minute, or 2 minutes. You can see the damage is roughly the same. I could have done this probably a little bit cleaner, but it's gonna be about the same damage as Moment of Clarity. But like I said, why wouldn't you just go Moment of Clarity and then and not have to think as much. If you're not getting the reward of Blood Talons in the form of increased damage, why bother with the extra effort? There's absolutely no reason, uh, unless you just, really like the play style and don't really care as much about the damage. So that's a little bit of that. Now looking at the new talent, check out the new talent a little bit. Give it its fair chance. Whilst we're just waiting to leave combat, we'll use up our combo points, keep it fair. Looking at it, I mean, I've been using Savage Roar and Incarnate for all of these. Looking at the sorry, that's my alarm there. Looking at the other possible talents, I mean, we've got Jagged Wounds, which it's gonna basically apply the same amount of damage of all of our bleeds, except in a much 20% faster. Which, I mean, looking at it currently, you don't really want to take that if you're taking Blood Talons and Savage Roar. You're going to be not having enough energy to be able to maintain all of your dots currently with Incarnate. There's no way you're going to be able to do it 20% faster and benefit from it. It's definitely way more beneficial to have that increased increased benefit from Incarnation. Um, again, Soul of the Forest, I spoke about that a little bit. I can't really see it being better than Incarnation, so I'm not really even gonna give it too much time. I think based on a lot of the feral community, Soul of the Forest is uh, looking quite good. But don't quote me on that one. Um, I personally just prefer Incarnation. Now, if I take Feral Frenzy and we just see how this kind of plays out a little bit more, we'll take Blood Sense on this one. In fact, no, we'll keep Lunar Inspiration, and you can kind of see the damage between the two. So, make sure I got it on my bars here. Get rid of main, we don't need that. So open up, do the same thing again. Rake, Moonfire. Now I'm going to proc my Incarnate and my Tiger's Fury, and then I'm going to pop Feral Frenzy to get the snapshot effect. We got the Savage Roar there. I mean, overall, it feels okay. Like, it's not quite as complex as Blood Talons. A little bit more active than Moment of Clarity. Um, proc it again here. Probably wasting a few combo points there, but that's not so terrible. So now, if I kind of compare this overall damage, you can see Feral Frenzy around about 10% of overall damage. Like I said, you're going to be looking at about 10 to 15% of your overall damage from that. It's basically just a 45-second cooldown, more or less press it off cooldown, not too much into it. Um, you know, maybe you like it, maybe you want that additional bleed, that's fine. I can see it probably having some PvP benefit, what with having an additional bleed. Um, but for as far as PvE goes, I guess it's okay. Again, maybe they'll fine tune a little bit, increase the damage, might make it a little bit more viable. But compared to Moment of Clarity, these two talents, Blood Talons and Feral Frenzy, just do not compare at the minute. But that's a first kind of look the at the Feral Druid. Um, and yeah, let me know your thoughts. Um, get down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. If there's anything else you want me to cover for Feral Druid, I mean, I'm going to be looking at the island expeditions. I'm going to be looking at some of the dungeons for Feral, seeing how they might play out in a Mythic Plus scenario. Uh, what talents you might find useful, what play styles, and we'll be bringing some more content. So yeah, thanks for watching.